Hello everyone. Welcome to the talk show I call Cerita. I'm Natalia Cheong, a 13-year-old writer, and I absolutely love anything that has to do with words. And so thank you so much everyone for tuning in. It means a lot to me. And yeah, like I said just now, I'm a writer and I really love anything wordy. I'm a very word person, and that is actually the whole reason why I started this talk show, so that you and I we could learn from the different experiences of writers. And by writers, I don't just mean published authors, because if you came in here and you thought that she's going to talk about writers and and all those writers just published a book, then no, because rule number one, you don't have to publish a book to be a writer, because writers, they're not just published authors, like I said, but they also consist of storytellers and even poets, because everyone has their own story to tell. And through this talk show, we'll be diving deep into what a writer sometimes faces. So the good, the bad, and sometimes possibly the ugly as well. So once again, thank you so much everyone for tuning in. It means a lot to me. And for our first episode of Cerita today, I actually have an amazing guest speaker on board. I hope that I just add her to the screen. So, hello, Mathura. Yep, our guest speaker is none other than Mathura. She is one of the Asia regional finalists for the Commonwealth Youth Awards in 2023. And actually, not only that, she's also an amazing ICAEW chartered accountant. And actually, that alone is more than enough to make me scream in excitement. But that won't be the focus for today, because, like I mentioned, Cerita is a place where I talk with different writers. And Mathura here is actually the author of a book called Money Matters. And yeah, so the title sounds super interesting, and I don't think I should waste any more time babbling on and on. So Madhura, thank you so much for being on the show today. How are you feeling?
Thank you for having me, Natalia. I'm very excited to be on the show and I guess talk about storytelling, is what you said.
Yeah, I'm truly grateful to have you on the show. To me, it means a lot to me. And yeah, I think you are truly an amazing person, not just in terms of skills and abilities, which are all so great, by the way, but I think also in terms of your thoughts and your actions, which really just show the kind of person you are. So yeah, I think before we delve deep into the more serious questions, I just have this wanted to break the ice with this fun question, which is, what is your favorite book, and what is it what is it about?
Favorite book. I think it's such a tough question. Uh, I guess for me, oh my god, with the recent launch of Percy Jackson show, and I'm like, now I'm conflicted between choosing Percy Jackson, but I think the OG is still Harry Potter for me. I tried reading before when I was in primary school. I tried reading out. My mom would get me these Enid Blyton books, but I never get through them. Like except for like a few ones, which were like the Magic Faraway Tree and the Wishing Chair and all those kind of stuff, which was cool. I love those stuff, Mister Mystery. But I think the one that really caught my attention and like until now I cannot let go of the story is Harry Potter. So I would say that is my favorite book.
Yes, I'm so happy because I'm a huge Potterhead as well. So to all the Potterheads who are watching this, yes, this is I'm Harry Potter fan, and so is Madura. So yay, go Potterheads!
Woo!
Yeah. Anyway, yeah, I too love Harry Potter books. So yeah, thank you for answering my very first silly question, Madura. So yeah, let's just get into it, shall we? So first of all, like I mentioned, you actually wrote a book which is called Money Matters, and the audience watching, they absolutely need to know what your book is all about. So I read it, and I actually think there are many wonderful lessons packed into it. And the way you just explain your personal journey is so relatable. And to be honest, I think you would do a way better in explaining your own book compared to me, obviously. So do you think you could describe your book in your own way and what it's all about, basically?
Um, I kind of regret naming it Money Matters. I feel like I should have named it Money Mistakes. So like the dedication of my book is to all the mistakes I've made in my life. I hope I never see you again. So in that spirit, I think my book Money Matters is all about my experience with money, what I've seen. I mean, I wrote it few years ago, uh, still in my, and I think the gist of most of the book is about my early 20s. So done with school, stepping into adulthood, what that is all about, and just experiencing money for the first time, earning your first paycheck, getting your first car, going on holidays, all the things that I think when we are young, you're like kind of raring to go and experience these things. So I wrote about my experiences with regards to that and what I learned. Some, of course, I also am an accountant, like you mentioned. So naturally, managing money is a thing in my life. So as much as I share my journey, I'm also putting down some, practices, I guess, habits that you can develop to make your money matters a bit more organized and a bit more all right in a way.
Yeah, yeah. I don't think I could have put it any better myself. I mean, you're the author, and I mean, just hearing you describe the book actually makes me want to reread it all over again. So yeah, I think I will definitely have to read it after this session. But yeah, thank you so much for answering that question. And yeah, I think one thing that many people, they always wonder when they see a writer or an author, or even someone that is not professional in writing, is you always wonder is how did they even start, because writing, it is a very very long journey. I've experienced it, and I'm pretty sure you can agree as well that there were many many ups and downs in writing your book. And yeah, it sometimes it always just seems so impossible. So yeah, could you just share a little bit about really pushed you to start writing the book, and yeah, really what was the whole process like?
I guess, wow, I mean, trying to recall back my process as to what exactly happened. Uh, I do agree it's not a easy thing. I think one thing I guess a lot of people since they were young, this is something most youngsters I've met have told. They all want to be writers, and even me when I was a kid, I wanted to write a book. I thought I would write a fantasy story, but I realized I had no imagination, not even a shred of it, to write something like that. So, but I wanted to write. Now that I look back, I think what really drives a lot of people when they say they want to write is they want to share something, right? They want to share their
Right.
story, and I think
Yep.
that's usually why most people write, and they want to put it out there because it is a normal innate human thing to do. The best way we can make an impact in this world is to share our experiences so that people learn from it. So I think for me, like choosing to write the book came after I had my talk show Money Matters for a while, which started at the beginning stages of the pandemic, and then I wanted to write the book so that I can share my personal story. Usually in the talk show, I was interviewing a bunch of guest speakers. I was looking into their experiences and all, and I was like, this is great. But I also have things that I've experienced which I would love to talk about. And it may not usually suit a talk show format, because I don't think anybody wants to come and sit and listen to me talk to myself for an hour. So I thought if it was written in a story, as my story was written in a book with all the pictures and all that, I think they would be more excited to experience it. So that's why I chose to write the book. I think the process of writing it was torturous. I think I wrote it and then I would always get stuck. It's like I can never have the good flow. Like, the people say if you hit the flow state, everything goes well. I don't think I ever hit it in my life. So it was quite a challenge to like really get it out. But at the same time, I think it was also fun because I am not really, I won't consider myself like an author. I like to tell that I don't consider myself an author. I'm just telling my story. So even when I read it back, when I was recording my audiobook, I was like, wow, it sounds like I'm talking to them. So that's what I did. I just
Yeah.
wrote the book like I was talking to somebody, uh, and like having a coffee chat with them, and just doing that came through. But of course, the other elements of writing a book that nobody talks about is like editing the book, where somebody sits down and criticizes your grammar and your why did you write this and
Yeah.
all that kind of stuff, or coming up with like what picture or what illustration to put. I had to spend so much time doing all these things which I never thought would be things I have to do when I write a book. So those experiences were new and fun and torturous at the same time. But I think at the end of the day, it achieved the goal of what I wanted to do with the book.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, I really like what you said. It's like you wrote your book as if like you were talking to someone. Because yeah, I don't think I've actually ever heard someone write say it like that, like how they wrote their book like that, which is actually a very, very interesting way to yeah, like tell your story. So yeah, that is a thank you so much for that very, very interesting answer. I think I learned a lot just from that whole answer alone. So yeah, like you said, there were many different ups and downs in your writing journey, different obstacles, right? Challenges, struggles. So I mean, I guess you told me some of them already, but maybe you could elaborate a little bit more, about what really were some of the really biggest challenges, like literally like this one rock in your path that you faced throughout your entire writing process, and how did you overcome it?
One big block. I guess this is something a lot of people face, regardless of whether it's your first book or if it's your first whatever. It's just getting over the self doubt of, is this really worthwhile, or is this really something people care about? I mean, one of the
Right.
things I was very fortunate to experience was that I started Ascendance when I was 19 years old, and I did it with a team. So even those doubts when I experienced it in building Ascendance, it was a bit more manageable because, well, I had a team. So if one of us was feeling doubtful, the other three are raring to go. So it's usually a bit more manageable. But I think the book was something that I did struggle with because I was doing it by myself. I was sitting down and writing my story, and of course, as I'm writing it, I'm like, do I really have to tell about my trip to Bali and my trip to Vietnam? Like, who cares, right? Or like, do I really have to talk about my car loan? Is this even a necessary story? Like, as I'm writing it, a lot of doubts come in, and I think that is something a lot of people face. But what was definitely different for me, or like anyone, all my friends who successfully wrote a book, even yourself, I would say, is that I had somebody to go back to check in and make sure I'm okay. So like for me, it was going back to my mentor and having a conversation with him and going like, okay, this is what I've done so far. Even if I only wrote an additional page, like he would be like, oh, okay, great, you have written an additional page, you're moving in the right direction, keep going.
Right.
So I was like, oh, okay, you mean it's not depressing that I only wrote a page in 1 week? Okay, fine, I'll continue writing. Or like I would ignore the book for like a weeks, and then I'll come back, and then my mentor will be like, hey, I thought you were writing a book, how is it going? I'm sure you're doing a good job. And I'm like, oh no, he was asked the question. So then I'll be like, okay, let's go back to writing it and sharing my story and all that. So it's like just having a mentor, somebody who was guiding me in the process, to check in with, to talk to when I was facing all the doubts. And especially when it's towards launching, or even after you launch your book, right? Like when it's out there in public, people start commenting on it. Not everybody's going to say nice stuff about your book, let's be honest. When people tell you certain things, like you will start feeling down. So like just having a mentor to go back to kept me sane throughout the whole process. So I think that is the main reason I even got it out. I feel like if I did not have that guidance, I would have never published a book. It would have never been a thought in my mind. I feel like I would have thought it's an impossible task for someone like me to write a book.
Mm. Right, right, right. Yeah, that is a very, very true, I think, for everyone, especially me. Yeah, because yeah, self-doubt and really the high expectation, it's all a very, very big issue, especially in the writing world. And
Yep.
sometimes, like you said, like those that self-doubt, it all can just collect in like this very, very like big hole, and then you just fall down it. And yeah, I really like you said as well that you already had someone there with you at your side to help you. And it's kind of in like a metaphor kind of way. It's as if like you're in a deep pit and then you have someone to pull you out of it. Forgive my writer brain. But yeah, yeah, it is yeah, I guess yeah, having a someone there cheering you on, encouraging you is very, very important. Because yeah, writing, it is a very how do I say this? A very hard task to do, especially on the brain. So yes, that is a thank you so much for sharing that. It is yeah, it is a very interesting. So yeah, I actually also have to ask this question as well because your book it's the sorry, you said like it was full of challenges, right? Writing the road to completing your book, it was full of different challenges. And sometimes people always see challenges as something bad, but sometimes those obstacles they can actually teach you something, right? And surprisingly enough, sometimes your struggles can actually teach you those tiny lessons, and that's when you realize that hey, my problems can actually help me. So yeah, I guess I just want to ask, what is the one thing that you learned about yourself throughout your writing process, like something new that hey, I didn't realize that I was like this before I started writing my book. So yeah, that's my question.
Wow, that's a good question. I didn't realize of someone like this before a book. I I guess for me personally, one big thing that helped me a lot writing this book was that, like, one of the chapters, if I'm not mistaken, is chapter 4, and then another chapter is chapter 5 and 4. So in chapter 4, I wrote a lot about my clients, people that I work with on their personal finances, and just putting down their stories. And then I think in chapter 5, I wrote a lot about um, my lessons from my parents and my mentors. And I kind of like summarized that, like things that they told me that I hold on to very strongly. So just going through that process, it's not easy. Like, I think summarizing things for chapter 5, I rewrote it like a few times because it's very hard to choose what you want to say, right? But
Yeah,
just
absolutely.
going through that process of like putting it down, like my client stories, putting my mentor's words, all of that made me really reflect on my experiences. So like for the client stories, as I wrote down, I'm like, oh, that is what I was trying to do. Or like, oh, I should have done this better with this client. Like that kind of things came up. Usually you won't even think this because in a day-to-day life, you are just going one day after another. You have new problems, new challenges to deal with every day. So you don't actually have time to stop and think about what happened. So I feel like just writing my I mean, it was my experiences, right? So just writing my experiences and what I considered to be valuable lessons from my mentors and all really took gave me the time to sit down and go like, this is the lesson I'm gonna take from this, and this is what I learned from this. And like it really helps you to process lessons, which is why I think, like, sometimes people tell like journaling is great. uh, Writing down what you have, your gratitude journal, or what you have learned for the day, is amazing. I experienced it. I mean, probably I should have done it more often, but just putting it down in that few chapters really helped me a lot to think about it.
Right. Yeah, that is that is yeah. Thank you for that. Thank you for the answer. That is a yeah. I think that yeah. Sometimes reflecting, I guess reflecting on sometimes reflecting on what you did before, then actually can uncover small little things that hey, I didn't realize that I actually learned this before. So
Yeah,
yeah, that is a yeah, that is a very yeah. I guess
I
reflecting
think
really helps a lot.
yeah, the other thing that I feel like many times people like me, or anyone who writes a book, would overlook is that it is not really a one man thing. Like, because we usually,
Mm.
when I was a young person, like when I saw Harry Potter, I thought J.K. Rowling did everything, right? But the truth is, she just wrote the book. There is a gigantic team around who ensured the book was edited, who ensured the book was published. There was a team that, I don't know, promoted the book. There were bookstores that were doing it. There were people inviting her for the talk show. So there is so many people coming in to make it happen, right? Make that book really reach out to the public. So like when I was writing it, it's easy for me to get into my head like, oh, okay, I'm writing my story, blah blah blah. But like I had a lot of people who came in and helped me out. Like I had Hira, who was the one who edited
Yeah.
my book. Vinisha, who was the one who illustrated my book. Hira also did like the image placements and all that. We had Nikki, who did the photograph for the photo shoot, which is the main cover photo that was used. Even that photograph, right? Taking that photograph, I was so uncomfortable because That photo shoot was the most uncomfortable day ever. They were like, "You need to do that weird smirk thingy you do," and I'm like, "What do you mean weird smirk thingy that you do?" And there was like, I think Maha or somebody was there, and they were all like laughing away and trying to get me to do this expression. So like, so many people played a role in getting that book out. So I think it's easy for me to get into my head thinking this is my work, I wrote it, and voila, I've made an impact in people's lives. But actually, it wasn't me. It was tons of people coming together to make it happen.
Yeah, huge team, right? Like they were
Yeah,
all like beside you, they really just supporting you all throughout your writing process. I think it's super amazing that you really have this group of amazing people really that just support you and really encourage you in any way they can, which is I think not a lot of writers have that.
yeah,
Like a lot of writers, they usually do it themselves. It means that okay, they're writing their book, they do it themselves. Editing it, they also do it themselves. Sometimes if they want illustrations, then they will learn how to draw or something and do it themselves. Yeah, which sometimes it is their own choice, yes, but then it can, I guess, yeah, it can take a very heavy toll on the mind, on the body, because sometimes you need other people to help and really give new ideas, like refresh your mind a little bit, which yeah, it's very, very handy to have a team around you, really, really helping you throughout the entire way. So yeah, I have
yeah.
to applaud you for your amazing team.
Yes, I shall
Yeah.
applaud them as well.
Yeah. Um, so yeah, thank you so much for answering that question. I'm sure it was a bit of a personal question as well, but yeah, thank you so much for sharing a little bit about your experience. I appreciate it so much. Uh, so I think you mentioned earlier as well that you actually have your own talk show, Money Matters, and I think right now it's about what 73 episodes. I think around there, right? I should think quite a lot. And yeah, I think it's just a curious question about how you actually started it and when you started it. I'm sure it was around, you said it was on the COVID era. So yeah, what really like made you decide that, okay, I'm going to have a talk show about money?
Oh. I can. Okay, so it did start during the COVID era. I think it was in 2020. I might be wrong. I don't know. I probably was bored to death at home. Um, and one of the things that my mentor was encouraging me to do is, like do something. Like don't just exist at home not doing anything, right? So like one of the things that we did in Ascendance was that we had our web series that launched at that time called Say What with Ascendance. And then we were like, okay, so this works. And then another one of my teammates, if I'm not mistaken, Hasha, had done Changing Reality. She was part of her university's radio, and she was part of the WQHS radio in University of Pennsylvania, and she started her talk show called Changing Reality. And I was like, wow, yeah, we are in an era where we can sit at home, open a screen, and I think I still remember how I did my first recording. I just put my phone on my dressing table in my room, and I just spoke random stuff for like half an hour. It was just me alone, and I wanted to talk about tracking, and because that's one thing I will not shut up about. I will forever talk about tracking your expenses. So
Mm-hmm.
I just sat there and talked for half an hour about this. It was awkward until now. If I watch it back again, I cringe to death. But after I did that, I was like, this was okay. This was fun, but I don't think I want to talk to myself for like half an hour every week. Then I was like, I went back to my mentor. I was like, what do I do next? Then he's like, why don't you ask your people around you who have done something with regards to their finances? And I was like, great. I have my friend who has something that I don't. I'm not good at saving. Like I need to really push myself to save money. But I have one friend who is just amazing when it comes to saving. And I was like, how do you do this? Like, it's just so natural for her to save money. This is Vishnu, who's one of my teammates in Simply Empowering, and she's
Ah,
also the tutor. She does ACCA tutoring in Precept Empire. So she's just amazing in saving. So I was like, how do you do it? I wanted to know. And we just did a talk show on that. We just, both of us came on screen, talked something for half an hour, and it was great. So I think after a while, it was like, this is actually fun just listening to people's stories and how they do stuff. And it just caught on. And I feel like it's a miracle I've still stuck on with it. and I've done what 70 plus, like you said. I am trying to change things up a little bit because I don't want to keep doing the same thing forever. But the gist of it remains the same. People's stories with regards to money.
Yeah, yeah. That is, yeah. I think your talk show is really, really uh a very, very special thing because you it's not just an interview, I feel, because I've seen a few pictures as well. I don't think it's like a very, very like a formal sort of interview. I see it as more of like a discussion where people who are just passionate about something like money they just come together and then they just share their experiences uh
Yeah.
about and just their different like mistakes that they've done, different or achievements that they've done, and then they just talk about that, which is very, very interesting. A lot of talk shows is always an interview sort of, right? So yeah, that your talk show is very, very, really, really something special. So well done on keeping it up until 73 episodes.
Oof, no pressure, no pressure.
Okay, okay. Yeah. So speaking of money, because I mean, you did your talk show, which is about money, and then your book is all about money as well, and you talk about all your personal experiences in that area already. But can I just ask, what is like the biggest lesson that you've learned from your thousands and thousands and thousands of experiences in money, and maybe you can also share a little bit about that lesson really has impacted like your different decisions today.
Hmm. Wow. I mean, I need to pick and choose one. Let me think. Uh, maybe I can share something a bit more recent. Usually, I would talk about these loads and tracking and all awareness and stuff. But one thing that I've always struggled with is earning money. So, like, I am someone who loves monitoring my expenses and keying in and doing all those kind of stuff, which is just basically managing your expenses. But I'm someone who hated trying to figure out how to make money. So I guess I was just lazy. So and it kind of scares me all the time, like how do I go out there and earn the money, right? How do I make this happen? Like how do you become like those adults, like in my life, even people that I look up to, my parents or the people that I look up to, how do they get to a point where they can make that amount of money? They can support themselves, they support their family. How did they do it, right? So like for me, the one of the lessons that in that area is that if you set your mind to it and you work towards it without worrying, without overthinking it, without spending every single day of your life checking whether you've reached the goal, you just enjoy what you do. You focus on your work, you focus on giving your best, the money will come. So like I think one of the years, one of my goals was to pay off my car loan. And I did not like, I just set the goal at the beginning of the year. I did not overthink it. I did not, although whenever I do make some money, I always go like, additional cash, let me take this and pay off my loan. I did do that, but I did not worry about it every night. So one thing I didn't realize was by the end of the year, I did settle off my car loan. Like it just happened. For me, it was magical. I was like, how did this happen? Right? It was so unconscious, but because I had set the intention and I just took the thoughts, words, actions related to it, it happened. Another year, I think my goal was to build up my emergency funds because I wanted to make sure I had 12 months of emergency funds in my savings. And that is something that matters to me. Without me realizing, I reached that goal in like 6 months. And I was like, wow, okay. So one thing that I have learned through these experiences is set a goal, be very clear on what your goal is. But after you set the goal, don't waste your time worrying about it. Just take the right actions, do your best in whatever you are given. Sometimes you don't even know you will make money out of something. Like just give your best in whatever you do, and eventually you will reach your goal. I was like, so that is something I've personally been learning more and more, and I would like to continue, I guess, understanding how this works and experiencing this.
Yeah. I do. I think I like what you said about the setting the end goals part because actually I have tried that as well. I'm also with attendance and they've taught me as well about this whole end goal part of it. And as a student, exams are like this huge big thing that we're all dreading. So I have to say that I actually tried this end goal thing for the exams, and I was actually very very surprised that I actually managed to achieve the results that I wanted. So yeah, and I never thought that angles would be something that I would do consistently. But yeah, I guess thanks to attendance, then like my whole view on uh angles and what really your thoughts can do has really really changed over the past few months. So yeah, that
I
is
think that's the thing, right?
yeah.
Like when you, by learning end goals now, you are learning such an important skill that probably when you are my age, it is going to be so easy for you to just focus on the goal and have complete faith that you will reach that monetary goal that you have, because you are practicing. I mean, you have started at 12 years old. I started when I was 19. That's like you have 7 years of a head start in a way to kind of practice this whole set the end goal, have faith that you'll achieve it, do your best in whatever is already given to you, and you can make it happen. Like that's the power of learning this when you're young.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you so much for your sharing about for that question. I think our audience, they have really, I'm sure they have learned a lot. Just hearing about your different experiences and what you have learned and how maybe we can apply it to our lives as well, especially the angle part. So yeah, we are so close to ending this session. But before we do, I would love it, and I'm sure the audience would super appreciate it as well. If you could give one final piece of encouragement or inspiration to not just possible future writers, but also perhaps accountants like yourself, since you yourself are an accountant. So yeah, what is your final last words?
This is again so tough. Um, maybe I shall give you guys a teaser to the book in a way, which is I write like I mentioned earlier. I think chapter 5 is about lessons I learned from my mentors and my parents. And one of the most favorite ones that I was so excited to write about in the book was something that my mom used to tell me ever since I was a kid. And I think that is that one statement that got me through school, being a good student that's got A's, straight A's, got me through anything basically, because I think I hear this dialogue in my mind even if my mom is not around saying it to me, which is in English it means doing whatever you do to the best of your abilities. Do your best, right? In Tamil it sounds way more cooler. In Tamil it's basically வேலையை திறந்து செய், which basically means do whatever work you're doing, do it to the best of your abilities. So I wrote about it in the book, and I genuinely believe it is one of the reasons I was able to do well in school. It is one of the reasons I was able to do well in anything since then, is just choosing to give your best, choosing to not just be a mediocre self, choosing to go out of the way and give your best into that scenario. And if you do that, you will thrive in anything you're set into. Of course, you may have plenty of lessons to learn, you will make plenty of mistakes, but if you're continuously doing your best, you'll be fine at the end of the day.
Right. Yeah, I feel so inspired now. And yeah, if I feel inspired, I'm pretty sure the audience that will feel like super inspired as well. So thank you so much, Madhura, for your final words and for being on the show today. It means so much to me, and I've already said it before, and you might be bored of hearing it over and over again, but I'll say it again and 100 more times if I had to. You are definitely like a really, really great inspiration for not just writers, but entrepreneurs and even accountants alike. And yeah, thank you so much for your time and all the effort that you really put into achieving your different goals. Because ultimately, I think when others see, perhaps some people when they see other people achieving their goals, then then it's what motivates them. Like, hey, if someone could do this, maybe I can do this too. So, yes, thank you so much for being on the show once again, and to everyone who is watching, thank you for tuning in to the first episode of Cerita. I really, really hope you learned something new about writing and acting from our incredibly awesome guest speaker, Madhura. So, yeah, it's really, really my hope to inspire more people to pick up a pencil or a pen or even a keyboard and start writing. So, yep, once again, thank you for joining, and I will see you in the next episode of Cerita.